Sandy's been sent to spend the summer with his uncle. But there are a few problems.
Well, you know what they say. You can choose your friends, can't choose your relatives.
The accommodations bite.
There you go.
The food is unusual.
You want your SpaghettiOs with or without?
Without what?
Kiwi Franks.
And there's not a friend in sight.
There's gotta be some mistake. You cannot be my uncle.
Until today.
Cool.
What's his name?
His name is Flipper.
Now Sandy's finally met his match.
Jump!
Awesome.
And together, they're about to discover just how deep a friendship can be.
Can't keep a dolphin.
You either take him.
Can't do that. He's used to being fed. He's right. I mean, the animal probably can't fend for itself anymore.
You see where that dolphin went?
They've got Flipper!
What you're doing?
Hey! You see, this animal means something to the kid. How to teach you a lesson. I have a thirst for knowledge. Teach me.
From Universal Pictures, America's favorite dolphin, Flipper. Paul Hogan.
Sandy, a man should never hurl in front of his woman.
Thanks.
Elijah Wood.
Don't ask me how he does it, kid. Even I can't explain it.
And Flipper. In an incredible adventure that will blow you out of the water. Flipper.
Oh my God. Flipper, 1996. For the record, I was 4. Elijah Wood looked like he was 4. That was a young Elijah Wood. Like, I thought he looked young in the Fellowship of the Ring. That was a young-ass Elijah Wood. He was so young in that movie that I watched the hell out of that movie as a kid. I watched that thing so much that VHS turned into a puddle, right? That thing flipped into its fucking grave. But I didn't realize that was Elijah Wood till I searched for that trailer. All I remember from that movie was him taking his thumb and punching it through a coconut. I did not remember Elijah Wood being in that film. Anyways, this has nothing to do with Flipper other than the fact that we're playing the Miami Dolphins. I'm excited about that. Welcome to First Kick Seahawks, the show where we prepare you for the first play of the first kick of every play by game day. You'd think that I would have that memorized by now. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can always buy me a coffee. There's a link to that in the description below. I have a lot of links down below, as I am off to do one of those two. Yeah, I like to provide y'all with a lot of receipts, and today's going to be a receipt show. I even got some receipts right here. Yeah, this will be a fun show. What's really fun about today is that I'm a little loopy. I slept 3 times today. That's how many naps I had to take to get through the show. You'll also note, just as like a little channel thing, as an update on the channel, I started messing around with thumbnails a little bit more. I'm always trying to improve the quality of the show. If you watched last year, we just had that Seahawks eye as the thumbnail for every video. And then I started messing around with different thumbnails as like images, right? Either as like a clip of a certain player or a coach or whatever. Well, now we have a nice thumbnail template that I'm going to start using. That I'm going to do maybe different templates depending on what the show is going to be about, just so that the overall quality of the show looks nicer. So when you donate to buy me a coffee, it helps me run a little bit better so that I can do things like that, and encourages me to improve the quality of the show. Anyways, on to what we're going to be talking about. I want to talk about Geno Smith. I want to talk about that Jets-Patriots game, because what the fuck was that? We're going to talk about Charles Cross and the offensive line. We're going to talk about the Dolphins offensive line. We're going to talk a little bit about Jordyn Brooks and Jerome Baker. And if you're Matty F. Brown or C. Mike Spin Mood, right, Griff Sturgis, Griff's, I know him as C Mike Spin Move, from Seattle Overload. Check out Seattle Overload. They're great. And even if you're Camden, MacLaren, myself, maybe do not be a part of that Jordyn Brooks conversation when we compare him to Jerome Baker. I also want to talk about the coaches, some of those coaches on that Dolphins team. But before we get to any of that, let's first talk about Geno Smith. Geno Smith, courtesy of SIS Football, trusted analytics for college and NFL teams, media, and fans from sportsinfo_SIS on Twitter. Follow their weekly podcast with analysis, breakdowns, and scouting on URL. Quarterback stock is up entering week 3 for Geno Smith. 325 quarterbacks have thrown 44-plus passes in a regular season game since 219. I assume that would be when they started tracking this. Geno Smith has a 92.7% on-target percentage in week 2 versus the Patriots, which would be the highest of those 325 quarterbacks. Now, if you had told me he was 100% accurate on that game, I would not be surprised. Geno Smith was really fucking accurate in that game. We're going to talk a bit more about that game and how phenomenal he was, and why that this stat in particular is a little insane. But the fact that out of the 325 games with a quarterback throwing 44-plus passes, he was number 1. Compared to last year's Brock Purdy EPA off the fucking charts, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow's amazing stats, Matthew Stafford being given all those accolades, even Jared Goff last year with the Lions. Geno Smith, number 1. Geno Smith, number 1. And not only Geno Smith, number 1, he's being paid like the 20th to 15th best quarterback. He might be getting paid less considering how many quarterbacks were drafted in the first round this year. He might be getting paid less considering how many quarterbacks got paid this last offseason. And he's been statistically the number 1 most accurate quarterback in the league. As of last year, when he was injured, the year before, I don't know about his accuracy, but he was statistically on pace to have one of Drew Brees' best efficiency years. Not, he was the median of Drew Brees' career. No, his best statistical efficiency years, he was just as good. Geno fucking Smith. Geno fucking Smith. It's almost like he knows that as soon as he proves it to John Snyder and the rest of the NFL on the last few years that he has left as an NFL player, he can get paid $300 million fucking dollars. He just needs to play out of his goddamn mind. And he's been playing out of his goddamn mind. I want to show you something else. Let me show you something. Courtesy of Steve Patton Analytics. What would his quarterback efficiency look like if we accounted for the drops of this season? Now, last week, it was calculated that he had 5 drops. He would be and he still kind of is, right? He would be below, right now, he's statistically below Jaden Daniels because of the drops in estimated points per attempt. But he would statistically be the 5th most explosive passer in the NFL, with Derek Carr mostly just throwing to Alvin Kamara, right? Kyler Murray, of course, his running game really tearing things apart. Josh Allen destroying the fucking Dolphins. Bills mostly just really destructive fucking running attack. So you got these rushing touchdowns right here. Baker Mayfield off the fucking charts as well. If Geno Smith is this goddamn accurate with his 92.7%, right? Part of this, I think, like the reason why his EPA is so low is because he threw that interception on the second play of the game. And then he had that safety because of the holding penalty. And like the first half of that Broncos game just really brought him down. But he is the fifth most explosive passer in the NFL this year. The fucking Cardinals and the Bills played each other. The Saints absolutely demolished the Cowboys. And it's week 2, right? But if you take into account the 5 drops he had this last game, who knows? He had at least one big drop in that first game from DK Metcalf that would have been, it was a hard pass to catch, right? But if you take in the drops, he would be way up here. Not where these 4 guys are as far as EPA, but their running games are off the charts right now. At least the top 3. I don't know about the Buccaneers. His passing game would be absurd. All we have is Kenneth Walker a little bit that first game in the second half, particularly at the end of the second quarter and then at the end of the fourth quarter, Kenneth Walker. We had nothing going on in the third quarter of that Patriots game as well. Look where the Dolphins are. Tua is all the way down here. Bottom half of the league, even if you take into account the drops. Daniel Jones, he's all the way down here at the bottom of the pack until you take into the account his drops. And then he's above Tua, about where Joe Burrow is. And that says a fucking lot. Matthew Stafford, similar situation. Matthew Stafford, at least Kupp and Puka are both injured. So it's like, he at least has an excuse for all of his leading targets are injured. Brock Purdy, people are tearing him a new asshole. He also has a bunch of injuries on his squad, but he's up here by Geno Smith. But yeah, look at these fucking injuries, these drop passes, and just how much it can affect the explosiveness of your quarterback. If you're really curious, we got Joe Burrow down here amongst the bottom 4 of the league with Caleb Williams. And then Young, right? He is so bad. He was so bad that they just benched him right off the bat. The separation between him and Caleb Williams is so far off placed. It's just as far as Geno Smith to like Kyler Murray. I would not want to be Young right now. Let's continue. Quarterback accuracy from Clean Pocket. Stat account triple C stat. If you're not following triple C account stat, you probably should. How accurate quarterbacks are from a Clean Pocket. We're going to start talking about offensive line. On the right scale, the average depth of target. So let's see. Right here, right there is 10 yards. 12.5 yards. Typically, the 9-yard range is considered, like for any target, 9 yards is considered elite. This is from Clean Pocket. Here we have on target percentage. So if your target is messy or you have a clean pocket, it should start to balance out around 9. So you have Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Will Levis, which is weird because he's all the way down here for his EPA. He just must not be throwing the ball a lot. But when it comes to average depth of target, you do see Geno Smith throwing a lot of these underneath shells. Again, that was the first half of that Broncos game. And then we saw it against the Patriots where we were throwing these little swing plays out to DK Metcalf. He's averaging, what is that? Just over 6. I would say like 6.3 yards for average depth of target from a clean pocket. But what's most interesting is his on-target percentage. He is the most accurate quarterback in a clean pocket. When there's a clean pocket, these guys, not so accurate, right? You definitely want to be above this line. You at least want to be on this line. Yeah, Brock Purdy, who's accurate when on target. I mean, it makes sense that the farther away you are from the line of scrimmage, the less accurate you're going to be. Anthony Richardson, of course, his 12.5 average depth of target is absurd because he had that like 63-yard pass, which is just, is just going to stretch everything out. The only reason, it was a clean pocket, it was 63, but he tripped, right? So he probably would have hit that thing earlier, but he managed to just fling it off, and get that ball out anyways. He's just an absurd athlete. Trevor Lawrence is below, but he probably would have had this on target for that 63-yard pass, and it would be up here, is my point. Bo Nix's average depth of target is low, right? He's trying to throw deeper. But the point is, the on target is way up here, and then the average depth of target is lower, right? So if he started passing deeper, he would probably end up about where Brock Purdy is. It would start to scale down. If you see him just drop off a fucking cliff, that's concerning. If he's Jordan Love, where he's throwing deep, but he's inaccurate, and we didn't get enough Jordan Love, right, to get more data, then that's concerning. If he's Caleb Williams, where he's throwing less than 5 yards a pass and he's off target, you want to bench that guy. Look, Bryce Young, at least he's averaging about 6 yards a pass and he's kind of on target, right? And that dude got fucking benched. That says a lot. Patrick Mahomes, he's averaging like fucking 1 yard, like 3 yards for average depth of target, but he's really accurate. Up there with Jaden Daniels, right? Derek Carr is at 5 yards. And when we go back here, Derek Carr's leading the league in EPA. Jaden Daniels is right up there. Patty Mahomes is right there. Young and Caleb Williams are all the way down there for explosiveness. So it's not always just about accuracy from a clean pocket, right? It's not always about the average depth of target. A lot of this has to do with scheme. Where are you putting the ball? Is tackling being done by the defenders? We're going to get to that in a little minute, because that's going to affect things like Josh Allen. Speaking of Josh Allen, where is he on this list? We see Tua Tagovailoa. He's right there. Geno Smith, average depth of target, but he's not nearly as accurate from a clean pocket. But you see Josh Allen is right there. He's at about 7.5 yards by Kyler Murray, right? The two leaders of the pack for EPA. But unlike Derek Carr, right, who's about, a yard and a half less, they're not nearly as accurate, right? Like I said, they're dropping down a cliff. You would rather see this steady decline downward where Brock Purdy is. than just seeing them just whoop, there it is, and hit the median average. So there's something else going on with these two teams. A, they played each other. B, the Rams defense probably sucks. So the Cardinals probably whooped up on a terrible Rams defense that doesn't have Aaron Donald anymore. And then the Bills whooped up on probably a sorry-ass Dolphins defense. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. All right. Stephen Patton again. Okay. Time to throw and pressure to sack ratio. Okay. For the grid to the right, horizontal represents the time to throw by seconds. For instance, Jayden Daniels has the least amount of time to throw with 2.2 seconds, followed quickly by Tua Tagovailoa. Let's call it 2.22 seconds. And then the longest time to throw is Jalen Hurts with, let's say, 3.03 seconds. Kyler Murray with 3.01 seconds, right? Somewhere in that range. Kyler Murray has all the fucking time in the world to complete a throw, which means that when you have a clean pocket, Kyler Murray has the longest amount of time to make a decision to throw the ball, which means that he has the longest developing routes. So he probably has the biggest chance to try to hit these deep balls, but he's not doing it. Time to throw, though, he's throwing, let me put it this way, depth of target. If you're hitting these 7.5 yard passes, you're probably hitting the 5-step drop. You're not hitting that 7-step drop. If you are, you're probably hitting, the defenses you're going against are taking away those deep passes, and you're having to make a decision on the third on step 7 to then check down to your fourth option, right? He's ideally making it through all of his progressions. First read's done, second read's done, third read's done on step 7, get rid of the ball. And that'll be about 7 yards on your play. So Jalen Hurts should be in the same situation. And he's right there, right? So it's about the same situation. If you have less going on, then your depth of target should go down. But as we see with like, where is Jalen? Yeah, right there, right? His depth of target is super fucking low because Jayden Daniels doesn't have any fucking time to throw. And because he doesn't have time to throw, the ball's going to be coming out really short. He's doing all these swing passes. Patrick Mahomes, I just don't understand. Maybe he doesn't have the correct wide receivers, but he should be getting the ball out by step 5, right? He should be getting better passes out. Geno Smith, he's in about the same range where he should be getting the ball out between steps 3 and step 5 routinely. And so it makes sense that he's going to be getting the ball out within this depth of target range because he's not hitting step 7. So he's not going to be getting this average depth of target ever because he's not going to be hitting his third read and then having a chance to then hit his fourth read check down, right? He's got to be either hitting his second read and then under pressure getting the check down. So he's in a different situation. Your quarterbacks are all lumped together. Brock Purdy is in a good situation though, where he's making the most out of the fact that he doesn't have as much time to throw. Young, right? He's had time to throw. Shout out to Damian Lewis. But when you look at Tua Tagovailoa, he's all the way down here. He doesn't have any time to throw. Interesting that we have Connor Williams, his previous center, and now he's got a new center. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But when you look at Tua's depth of target, he's at the same depth of target as Geno Smith. So unlike Jayden Daniels, who's all the way down here, you can see Tua is making the most out of his opportunities, just like Brock Purdy, where even though he has less time to throw, he's able to put in a little bit extra yardage. That can be a lot. That can be scheme, right? Tua and Brock Purdy are both a part of that Shanahan scheme. It could also just be better quarterback talent. It remains to be seen. Geno Smith could just be a hell of a player, but, it could just be also defensive scheme. The reason why he's different than Patrick Mahomes is because he went against the Patriots. And we saw against the Jets that the Patriots were not looking so damn good against Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers right here, right? So the Patrick Mahomes might have just gone against teams that were better prepared for him. And Geno Smith went against the sorry-ass Broncos and then the sorry-ass defensive backfield of the Patriots, and they might not be as good as we think. But from a clean pocket, he is incredibly accurate. That's the most to take from it, right? And then the other thing to take from it is that Tua and also Brock Purdy are making the most of their opportunities when you consider the time to throw, right? And so the big question is, with Skylar Thompson starting for the Dolphins on Sunday, will Skylar be down here? Maybe not as accurate, right? From a clean pocket, maybe he'll be down here like Caleb Williams. But will his average depth of target be the same because of the coach? Or was Tua Tagovailoa the reason that the average depth of target is where it is? So if they're going to be completing passes with their best quarterback at about 6 yards, is that going to be the same with Skylar Thompson? I don't think so. It might be more of a Gardner Minshew situation where it's at like 5, and then with a clean pocket, which they have not had. Even with Tua, it was under the average. He'll probably be down here. So don't expect good things from Skylar Thompson. He'll probably be playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Likely, right? Let's continue forward. Time to throw, pressure to sack ratio. This we were just covering time to throw, right? Pressure to sack ratio goes up. The longer the quarterback takes to throw, as you go downward, it increases the chance that the quarterback is going to be sacked. As you see here, Geno Smith avoids sacks at a fairly good rate. You want to be over here. You want to be up over here. The longer that it takes for a play to develop, you want to be as close to or under 10% as possible. So Geno Smith, he gets sacked at about 2.5 seconds, and it takes about, let's see, my brain isn't the best at math, at about 18%. 18% of the pressure. Whereas Kyler Murray, he gets sacked frequently, but after 3 seconds. So if the play has developed a long time, there's a good chance Kyler Murray is going to go down. If the play has developed for 2.5 seconds and Geno Smith hasn't gotten the ball out yet, there's a low chance that Geno Smith is going to get sacked. There's a high chance that he's going to evade and get the ball out. As we saw with Jacoby Brissett, he has a good chance that he is going to evade pressure and get rid of the ball. And it was the most fucking frustrating thing in the world. You want to be up in this category where you extend the play, and then you keep extending the play, and then you evade pressure. So the pressure to sack ratio, does the pressure make you get sacked? In a short amount of time, Tua is able to avoid pressure. By 2.2 seconds, he immediately has pressure in his face, but he does not get sacked. Jaden Daniels, he immediately has somebody in his face, and then it's a good fucking chance he's going to get sacked. I hope that made sense. Long way around. All right. Of course, all of this has a lot to do with the offensive line. We just played the Patriots, who have this dude Love, and he is the number 1 or the number 2 worst offensive tackles in the league. His pressure percentage allowed is the second worst in the league. It's at, what is that? Like 13%. 13% pressure percentage allowed, which means on 13% of the plays, he's allowing pressure. Titans player, the worst at 15%. But we saw against that Jets team fucking getting teed off. Even against us, he was getting teed off on. The difference is, as we saw with Jacoby Brissett, that he is able to evade pressure. They also used a lot of 2 tight end sets to help him out. So it took about 2.8 seconds, 2.8 seconds before pressure hit him. And then he was able to evade that pressure, which was the most infuriating thing in the world. But where the hell is Jackson, right? Well, first we'll start with Stone Forsythe. Stone Forsythe, one of the other worst tackles in the league. At about 11% of all snaps, he is allowing pressure up in Geno Smith's face, which is not great. He's also, this is the blown block percentage. Let's see. That's at about, I'd say, 7.5, maybe. 7.5% of the time, he's just straight up blowing a block, which means Love is really bad. He's just straight up blowing blocks left and right. That's like 11% right there, or like 10.5%. But Stone Forsythe is routinely just blowing blocks up for pass protection, which means Geno Smith just has a dude straight up in his face, which is not going to help with his time to throw with that 2.5%. It's amazing that Brissett has any protection whatsoever. But what's most fascinating about this chart is Stone Forsythe is all the way down here. Charles Cross is tied for number 1 with the Packers tackle. Charles Cross, I got to go on a rant about this. I did a 4 to 8 hour rant on Charles Cross this offseason in a goddamn trailer, in a van, down by the river, telling y'all to quit shitting on Charles Cross. I did. If you watched this fucking network, if you watched this channel, this shitty ass channel on YouTube this offseason, you would know I did this whole thing giving PFF the middle finger, giving them the flipper, right? Miami Dolphins. I told y'all to keep Charles Cross out of your fucking mouth if you could not say anything nice about him. Y'all said that he is nothing compared to Russell Okung, and I said you were right, because he is better than Russell Okung. Don't even compare the two. He had literally twice the snaps plus like 2 as Okung did as a rookie. But Okung made it as a Pro Bowler, and he had a better grade, which means that he was better than Charles Cross. Yeah, but he had twice as many snaps, which means that the rule of 0 per PFF averaged his grade down because there were less plays that statistically would have gone his way. Charles Cross has been one of the best tackles in the league. Easily. And so now he has not allowed a single pressure in the league so far. The only tackle to do it. He looks incredible. Y'all shat on him last year. Last year, in week 1, he was injured. Came back little over halfway through the season. Played injured. Looked injured. But his rookie campaign, he looked great. And he played a ton of fucking snaps. With the right side of his line, everyone next to him, injured. Rotating guards. So now he has full health, new offensive coordinator, quarterback is healthy, and he has not allowed a single pressure. Now, part of that is, are you familiar with the Blitzkrieg? Not the NFL Blitz, but the Blitzkrieg. The French would know. The French had this wonderful wall in World War II. They technically had it for a while before, right? But what made Hitler's Nazi Germany so dangerous, among many things, was their Blitzkrieg. They just had all these tanks and other things, and they just would rush a military force. And the French were like, we have this wall. You can't just blitz us. And so what did the French do, the Germans do? They just went around the wall. And so right now we have our third string right tackle. And then we have Anthony Bradford, who's okay, but he got benched for Christian Haynes. And then Christian Haynes did okay, but then he got benched for Anthony Bradford after completely blowing a play. So they just rotated those guys a bit versus the Patriots. So the Germans went around the wall and took over Nazi Germany, because why would you just go at the wall? So is it that Charles Cross is the best left tackle in the league right now and has allowed zero pressures? Or is it teams that are like, well, why would we do that? Let's just overload their shitty third string tackle and their guards that haven't figured out how to pass block yet. Their third string tackle can't even run block well. Stone Forsythe is all the way down here at the bottom. You know, is it that Charles Cross is fucking amazing, which he is good. I didn't think he was going to be that good. Or is it that, you know, go to the weakest link on the line of 5? We don't have Will Dissly to help block. We don't have a run blocker except for like Brady Russell, who I never really pegged as a run blocker. And I don't think A.J. Barner is that guy when it comes to blocking. So let's just rush their guy. It remains to be seen. We'll find out. We'll find out as the season goes on if Charles Cross starts to dip down a little bit. But so far, he's a hell of an offensive tackle. The Dolphins, though. Here we have Austin Jackson. That's one tackle. Where's their other tackle? She asks like she's hosting Blue's Clues. He's right here. It's in the top section. Tristan Wirk. It's a shame his last name isn't Wharf. Like where you would go fishing. Tristan Wharf, Miami Dolphins. Missed opportunity. Change your last name, dude. You can afford it. But yeah, so their tackles, I mean, he's not allowing nearly as many blown blocks, but he's about the same pressures allowed. The big difference, the biggest fucking difference in this game between these two guys, between these our two teams, other than the guard positions, is the centers. They have a new center, Aaron Brewer. Of course, we have Connor Williams. This is courtesy of Pro Football Reference. Y'all know me. I use Pro Football Reference all the time. Aaron Brewer, he blocked for Derrick Henry the last 5 years. Primarily the last 2 years. And then they let him go. And now he's blocking for Miami. And that kind of matters a whole fucking lot. Because they've historically had center issues with Connor Williams being injured. But it's never been this bad. It's never been Tua Tagovailoa, no fucking time to throw at all. They have the same tackles as us with time to throw. As far other than Charles Cross is significantly better, but you don't need to have the number one tackle in the league. Sure, Jalen Hurts has Lane Johnson, but Kyler Murray doesn't have one of the best tackles in the fucking league. He's got some guys like right here, and he's got a guy right there. He's got mid tackles. You don't need to have the best tackles in the league. So what's going on with the interior? It's got to be the guards, and it's got to be the communication with Aaron Brewer. They traded in their all-pro, Pro Bowl center for a guy who had Derrick Henry running the ball. And historically, they've had Hopkins and they've had Julio Jones. They had, what the fuck is his name? A.J. Brown. And they could never get the ball out on time to throw it to them. Ryan Tannehill always had somebody in his face. And so now you have that team's center with a pair of running backs that were just overcoming terrible interior line play. They did have like Taylor Lewan and a few other good tackles, right? But that team didn't have an investment in their offensive line, and Seahawk fans know what happens when you put a rookie offensive lineman in there who's not necessarily that guy. If you just sign a lineman who, well, he blocked for Derrick Henry, and it turns out he's not fucking Derrick Henry, he's just the center who happened to be blocking for him, you might be screwed. You might end up with a quarterback who has the least time to throw out of everyone. And as a center, you need to communicate in particular with your guards. So if they're not picking up stunts against Leonard Williams and in particular Byron Murphy, they might be fucked with Skylar Thompson. We're going to get to that in a second, because how is Mike McDaniel, or as the girls at Our Turf Football like to say, hipster homebrewer, how are they going to try to counter the fact that they have a center who might actually suck donkey nuts? Well, that's fascinating, don't you think? When you go to the perfect run blocking grades and yards after contact, the Dolphins' perfect run blocking grade is not great. Yards after contact, you want to be up here. Seahawks do not have a lot of yards after contact, as we saw with Zach Charbonnet. He was getting tackled immediately. Kenneth Walker was getting lots of yards after contact, but he did not play versus the Patriots. Zach Charbonnet was getting dragged behind the line of scrimmage. He brought that number down. But when you look at the perfect run blocking grade, we are in the top 4. Yeah. Our offensive line is run blocking the fuck out of people. And as we saw versus the Patriots on Thursday Night Football, if you watched, the Jets ran all over that fucking team. But the Jets are not in the top 4. They're not. Now, they have great yards after contact. They're in the top 3 of yards after contact, right by Stevenson of the Patriots. But our run blocking run rate is fucking incredible. Stone Forsythe as I've said on the channel many times, he can't pass block to save his life, but he can do one thing really well. He can run block. Anthony Bradford, as I've said many times, he's an okay pass blocker. You don't want him pass blocking against good players. He needs help. But he's a good run blocker. Connor Williams, he can do both. But you know what he's fucking amazing at? He's fucking amazing at run blocking. Tomlinson, you know where he came from? He came from that Kyle Shanahan run blocking scheme. Followed Saleh to the Jets. Why? So he could run block for Breece Hall. Charles Cross, he was a pass blocker. You know what he was brought in to do to pass block? You know what he's the best at? He's the number one pass blocking tackle in the league. You know what he learned how to do? Run block. You know what side of the ball we've been running at? The other side. And he learned how to run block. We got the number 4 run blocking team in the fucking NFL. And it doesn't look like it. Why? Because our yards after contact are fucking shit. We need Kenneth Walker back. Because that man is just a fucking Tasmanian tiger. When you look at the Dolphins, their perfect block rate is poor, is piss poor. It's about 51%, 52%-ish, somewhere in this little category. We'll call it 51%. Cardinals are also at 50%. But when you look at the yards after contact, the Cardinals are way up here, and the Dolphins are at the bottom of the league. Mostert, the guy who had 18 touchdowns on the ground last year, injured. A chain, injured. They have Jeff Wilson and then one other guy with a W for a last name. Those two guys have been running. He's also been getting tackled. They tried doing some little pitch plays to Tyreek Hill. They have not been blocking well for Tyreek Hill. This Dolphins team has not been running the ball well when last year they were the highest running EPA team other than the 49ers. What was it? Was a chain averaging like 12 yards a carry for a while there? I think that the team average was like 7 yards a carry. It was stupid explosive. Of course, Anthony Richardson is like going to give you a ton of yards after contact, but they have the perfect block run rate. You have Lane Johnson and company on the Eagles. The Eagles have that amazing offensive line for a reason. It's so Jalen Hurts doesn't have to play quarterback. And then you have the Cowboys, who it's the goddamn Cowboys. They still have Tyron Smith and company. Zach Martin, Hall of Famer, right? They got multiple Hall of Famers on that offensive line. And then you have the Seahawks? What? The Seahawks, who for the last decade, since we got rid of Max Unger especially, have been bottom 10, if not bottom 5 in the league, not just for pass blocking, but for run blocking, where we have Marshawn Lynch getting tackled at the line of scrimmage or a yard behind the line of scrimmage, and then he drags 2 to 3 guys for 3 yards? What? If only we could get more yards after contact. We should see if Chris Carson fixed his neck. Like we should see if Marshawn Lynch wants to get off the couch again. Zach Charbonnet, you need to play better. Because we have an amazing run blocking rate right now. But what's the difference? Well, the difference is we upgraded our fucking center. And we're not playing with Aaron Brewer. I've been saying for a long time, since we got Max Unger, that trading Max Unger and a bunch of meat for Jimmy Graham destroyed our Super Bowl hopes more than anything else. Because it stunted the growth of our team. You cannot run the ball with just guards. You need a good center. And Aaron Brewer, I mean, sure, you have Derrick Henry. You can have running backs that can overcome a bunch of shit. But you can't get 18 fucking touchdowns in a season on the ground and then some with another guy without a really good center. And we got their center. We have so much opportunity. We have so much meat on the bone that we're not utilizing right now. We have a ton of comments. From Johnny. Tyler Huntley did get signed to the Dolphins, but it sounds like they're starting Skylar Thompson. We'll get to that. More comments from Johnny. It is good to see you. I'm sorry that I didn't see this. I was on one. If Lucas is back at the O lineman for the Seahawks, then Geno will get sacked less. Absolutely. Like I said, Stone Forsythe, good run blocker. Terrible pass blocker. We'll see that time to throw rate jump up at least a second, at least half a second, and it'll be a huge difference. Let's see. Johnny, I do not need dreadlocks. I like my hair the way it is, but I appreciate it. Yeah, Charles Cross is top 3 O lineman, but Lucas has to come back. Yeah, I was saying all offseason that if we get Abe Lucas for just 6 games, that's good enough for me. Abe Lucas doesn't need to play an entire season to be worth it. I'm of the mind that you need to have 8 starters in your offensive line room because it is impossible for you to expect an offensive lineman to be healthy the entire season. Fully expect, in my mind, Charles Cross to miss at least a game, right? So you need to have a guy that you think can start for a season, for an entire season. Because what if he goes down? This is why we signed George Fant, because he can play left tackle and he can play right tackle. Just so happens George Fant goes down. Now we're on the 3rd. Imagine if we didn't sign him and Stone Forsythe had to start immediately, and then we lose Charles Cross again, right? It could be a serious problem if you don't have enough depth. You need 8 starters, and then you need 2 understudies, making 10 offensive linemen. And yeah, Kenny McIntosh can block. And as we saw in the preseason, the dude can read blocks. I would like to see Kenny McIntosh get some carries. And I am a Zach Charbonnet fan. But, you know, the dude doesn't look like he can accelerate. He might have put on too much weight, right? He might be that he needs to lose like 5 pounds, 8 pounds, and be able to hit the hole faster. All right. So you asked about Tyler Huntley. Well, it sounds like Skylar Thompson's going to get the start. In 2023, Miami played the New York Jets, and they won with Skylar Thompson. This is the game that Skylar Thompson got the most snaps. He also played the New York Jets a couple years ago in 2022. They lost that game 17-40. In that game, he had 33 attempts for 19 completions, 57%, 166 yards, an interception. He was sacked 2 times. He also rushed for 8 yards, and he fumbled once, lost the fumble. But you know, if you're getting blown out 40-17. That means that there's a lot more going on than your quarterback, not playing well. But he did beat the Jets last year, which is crazy to think, just 11-6. Such a low-scoring game for a team that put up so many points, on the ground. He was 20 of 31, 64% completion, 152 yards, which is even less. He had 1 sack, 12 yards rushing. And on 12 of On 3 attempts. Sorry, I thought it said 12 attempts. No fumbles lost. What's interesting about this is that it goes back to the time to throw, which is this pressure rating. If Tua is getting all of this yardage with no time to throw, and where is it? I had it just a second ago. And then we have this average depth of target that is about, 6 yards for Tua. Fully expect Skylar Thompson to be down here. If I was Mike McDaniel, I would start Tyler Huntley. I think Tyler Huntley is a better player wearing a backpack like he's from Pilgrim's Progress. But he just got signed just a few days ago. And so I don't think he would have enough time to learn the playbook. I think, though, if you're a good enough coach, you would pull a Baker Mayfield and just every single play say, this is what you're going to do. Mostert is healthy now. Mostert is going to do this. Don't fuck it up, and keep it as simple as possible. Because I don't think Skylar Thompson is that dude. And I think if there are bullets flying in his face with that short time to throw, it's going to be a disaster for the Dolphins. We could see him get benched if we just start demolishing the kid in the middle of the game. Tyler Huntley, at least, has played for multiple teams. He's won multiple games. I'm pretty sure he's beaten us either when he was with the Packers or when he was with the Cardinals. He's been around the league for a long time. You could simplify football speech enough to him to say, yo, we're running a corner out. If the safety does this, do that. Don't screw it up. And then have a chance to compete. He knows how to deal with bullets spraying in his face. So I agree with you. But he hasn't had enough time to maybe even know who his offensive linemen are. Like, they probably had a meet and greet. They probably sat for a meeting. Of course he knows who Tyreek Hill is, but it's going to be really hard for him as a backup guy who's never really been a starter to be a leader in that locker room. Baker Mayfield, he was a first-round pick who led a Browns team to the playoffs, who was then signed to the Panthers, and then jumped to Sean McVay, who was in his ear constantly. It's a different situation. I would think Mike McDaniel would also not want to ruin Skylar's confidence, because if you have a backup who's been with this team for a while, and then suddenly you sign a guy over the weekend and then throw him in immediately, Skylar's going to be like, well, why did you even bring me along to begin with? You should have had me on the practice squad, right? So you got to throw Skylar to the fire at least for one game, which is good for us, right? And give Tyler Huntley an opportunity to learn the playbook, familiarize himself with the other players. But if things go incredibly bad and he starts throwing interceptions and he starts feeling ghosts, bench Skylar, because that's going to just make things even worse for him going down, his career, and he's just not going to make it to another NFL team. So it's a weird balance for how to manage the quarterback room, because again, why have a backup quarterback if you're never going to start him when your starter gets injured? But also, if you sign a backup quarterback that's better than your backup, why not start him? I don't know, right? Okay, so here's the meat, right? Here's the most interesting conversation in the room that nobody's talking about yet. Jordyn Brooks, former first-round pick, inside linebacker, outside linebacker a bit for the Seattle Seahawks. Let go after the season. We didn't pick up his contract. Then he goes to the Miami Dolphins. We then pick up Miami Dolphins player Jerome Baker. he played for Vic Fangio's system, right? Which is interesting because we're not using that system anymore. We were playing with the Vic Fangio system for Jordyn Brooks. Jordyn Brooks then goes to Miami. Miami not using the Vic Fangio system anymore. Fascinating, right? The big thing about Jordyn Brooks when he was coming out of the draft is people wanted Queen, who Mike McDonald, our head coach, worked with on the Ravens, right? And I personally preferred Jordyn Brooks out of the draft, and people thought I was crazy. But what I saw during not his senior year in college, but the year before, was that he was being used in a particular way, and I thought it would work better with our system. And then we moved to a Vic Fangio system, and clearly it did not work for Jordyn Brooks. But the question is right now, who is performing better on their new teams? I'm going to do two things. We're going to talk raw stats, and then we're going to talk what was the problem with Jordyn Brooks in Seattle. So here it is. Right? In Miami this year, he has 10 combined sacks. He has 1 pass defense. Right? We're going raw stats. We're going super basic. Jerome Baker, 9 combined sacks. 1 of those was a tackle for a loss. 1 pass defense. 1 fumble recovery, right? He happened to be in the right place at the right time. The big difference between these two players' careers is Jordyn Brooks had trouble tackling in the open field for yards after the catch. He had trouble covering passes on the flats or in out routes, right? And then Jerome Baker could not stay healthy enough to complete a season. When you look at Jerome Baker last year, he was a part of 13 games. He had a 17-game season. He played 11 for this one, 15, 11. But he did have this one season where he played 17, got 100 combined tackles. Jordyn Brooks, right, similar thing, where he blew out his knee towards the end of that one season. But he's also had similar stats, except he had an extreme amount of combined tackles. Right? Yeah, you look at Jerome Baker, he's not a tackling fucking machine. Jordyn Brooks, tackling machine. So what is the difference other than the injuries? Well, it's obviously the passing grades. Let's start with Jordyn Brooks. Actually, no. I'm going to start with the good one. We're going to start with the good one. Way to just fucking reveal it all. Here we go. Let's go. Here we go. Let's start with the advanced defensive stats for Jerome Baker in 2024. We're going to start with the important ones. Pass coverage. Jerome Baker has been targeted 6 times. 5 of those have been completed for 21 yards. 4.2 yards per completion. 3.5 yards per target. That adds up to about 0.7 yards are being given up after a pass has been caught. I'm going to let you guess, is this better or worse than Jordyn Brooks? 0.7 yards after the catch. Little Jeopardy music in the background. Well, I've already given it away earlier. Where is it? Here it is. 4.6 yards per target, which is worse than the 4.2 that Jerome Baker is giving up after the yak, right? So he's getting hit with deeper targets, Jordyn Brooks. That could just be a scheme thing. But yards after completion, 10.7. Dude is giving 6.1 more yards after the catch. That is more yards than the target. 7 targets, 3 completions. One of those was a pass defense. Of the 6 targets that Jerome Baker has had, 5 of them have been completions. One of them was a pass defense, right? But he's completing the tackle immediately. Okay, Jordyn Brooks is getting cooked. A lot of these passes are just straight up incompletions, right? He's just being missed. But when the pass is being completed, he is being fucking roasted. Okay, but maybe it's just, a small sample size. The previous year's yards per target, last year, 7.5 yards per completion, 9.7. Year before that, 9.2 yards per target, 12.8 yards per completion. Jerome Baker, 7.3 yards per target, 8.6 yards per completion. So a small difference in the tackling yak. Small difference between the tackling yak in 2022. 5.4 yards per target, 6.7, right? The target doesn't matter so much. The target doesn't matter so much because that's a scheme thing. Where is he being positioned? Where does the defensive coordinator want him to be to cover certain routes? Where is the offense trying to move him to try to get the pass done? The question is, when the pass is actually being thrown, is he bringing the guy down? Offensive players are going to get about a yard. If you get there to tackle, right, they're going to reach. But Jordyn Brooks is allowing more yards than the actual tackle. That is not good football. That is really bad football. This is what got him removed from the Seattle Seahawks to begin with. This is what made people like myself and the Seattle Overload guys put our heads in the sand every single football game because we're like, Jordyn Brooks is our guy. Look at all the tackles he gets. Yeah, but look at the yards after the catch. Camden. Shut up, Camden. You fucking idiot. Right? We're getting yelled at by Seahawks Twitter and the other fans. And we're like, but he's a good player. He could be if he learns how to actually tackle and get good pursuit angles. I'm so glad he's not on the team right now. Noah Fant could eat him alive. If we had Kenneth Walker healthy right now, Kenneth Walker on a little swing pass would eat Jordyn Brooks alive. So if we're going up against a sorry-ass Skylar Thompson, they're not going to score any points on us. If Mike McDonald is pissed off about the way that Patriots game went and they can't run the ball on us because they can't throw, and all we do is just stop their run, and then we have to go up against the fuck the Jalen Ramsey thing. We might just target Jordyn Brooks every single play of the game and just cook them. It could be JSN on Jordyn Brooks all day long. We'll just line him up on Jordyn Brooks, JSN, all day long and watch Jordyn Brooks mistackle him over and over and over and over and over and over again like a bad Marshawn Lynch joke. It's going to be amazing. We might not play our starters in the fourth quarter. That's how bad this defense is for the Miami Dolphins. They need their offense to outperform how bad this Miami Dolphins defense is, but they don't have Connor Williams. They have Aaron Brewer at center. They don't have Tua Tagovailoa. They have Skylar Thompson and then maybe Tyler Huntley. Okay, I promised you guys something fun. This whole stream I think has been fun, but I'm going to bring up one last thing and then we're going to go. Yeah. All right. I found, because I like to look at the coaches, I found a few unique names on the coaching staff. One of my favorite guys, one of my favorite coaches that I'd never liked before, but he's tough as nails. If you remember this coach, He was Trevor Lawrence's starting quarterback / passing coordinator coach. During that preseason for Trevor Lawrence, his eyeball popped out of his face. And instead of taking it easy, he was laying flat on his face in a hotel room studying tape for Trevor Lawrence. Maybe he would have done better as a rookie if that didn't happen. But shout out to Darrell Bevell, the Dolphins quarterback / passing game coordinator. Darrell Bevell, of course, Seahawks offensive coordinating, passing game coordinating legend, right? Assistant offensive line coach, Lemieux John Pierre. That's a name. That's a hell of a name, Lemieux John Pierre. When we got rid of, well, actually, even when we had Max Unger was hurt regularly under the Seahawks during our Super Bowl run. We brought in Lemieux John Pierre, and he was his backup. When we tried to replace him, we had Drew Nowak and Christian Sicoli. Drew Nowak also did not work out well. He was a defensive lineman that we tried to convert to center. When that did not work, we brought in Lemieux John Pierre regularly from free agency, and Pierre then was our starting center for quite a while. We also used Patrick Lewis regularly. Patrick Lewis would go to the Jaguars, but it's cool to see Lemieux John Pierre enter the league as an offensive assistant coach, right? Offensive line coach. So that's another Seahawk on this roster. Not a Seahawk, but the wide receiver passing game specialist, Wes Welker, right? Patriot, Bronco, most famously saying during Super Bowl 48, we're the number one offense of all time. Let's fucking play like it, after Cam Chancellor fucking rammed him into the ground. So that was lots of fun. And then one last name, assistant defensive backs coach, Mr. Deshaun said. He was our defensive backs coach for a long time, but also member of the Legion of Boom. So it's cool to see that he got picked up. He joins Jordyn Brooks on the defensive side of this really, really bad Dolphins defense. That is all I have. Thank you for watching First Kick Seahawks. I am Camden MacLaren. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support the channel, you can always buy me a coffee. It is amongst all of the cool links I have in the description below. I finally got Lisa from Our Turf Football scheduled for a guest appearance tomorrow morning. We'll see. We're both country folk, so it is hard to get the internet timed properly. We will see if that actually follows through. Y'all enjoy the rest of your night, day, whatever it is. Go Hawks.